I think anything that I put out, it's just kind of like, it's gonna say something. It's not just because. It says something about you, about society, about the world. But either way, I always wanted to really make you have a question or a conversation. You need to leave debating something or thinking about something, and whether you're mad at me or not, I don't really care. I just need you to talk. And it needs to start something.
Ladies and gentlemen, you walk on the camera.
Who is one of your biggest inspirations right now?
Oh, that's such a loaded question. To be honest, right now, I feel like it doesn't change as much because I'm always looking at people from like back in the day. So if that's like, well, right now, as far as actors, it would be like Jasmine Guy, Lisa Bonet, literally, I don't know, anyone from back in the day. I don't know if that makes sense, but I was really inspired by shows like Different World, Fresh Prince, just, I don't know, those old sitcoms, Raven Simone, Kyla Pratt, anyone like who was a black young girl around that time, I think really inspires me, and especially because I feel like I was always watching them and not mimicking them, but always seeing if I could do it as well before I even knew that I wanted to act.
Could you talk a little bit about Concrete and your short film and the process of that?
Oh my goodness, Concrete, yes. So I'm an actor first, but 3 years ago, God really told me to create my own roles, but I did not know what that meant because I did not go to school for any of that. So Concrete was basically an idea that I had about a dream that a girl seen like racial stereotypical roles being reversed, and that's a real dream that I had. And I kind of took that and was like, that is a really interesting concept. And with that, I was like, I feel like I could create roles for that. But like I said, I still didn't really know exactly how to do it, what to do with it. So I wrote a script. It was not perfect, and my friend was like, okay, as long as you have some stuff, like we can work with it. So I took the script and I was like, all right, I just need to learn about the behind the scenes thing and keep it going. And I've always been interested about behind the scenes in general. So it wasn't that hard to grasp certain things. It was just technicalities that I was like, okay. But I think as an actor, it helped with Concrete, because on the flip side of it, being a director, I could really see how to navigate people and really direct them to see what I wanted them to do. And I went to school for acting, so if I was directed, I know what it is to be directed, and so I feel like that process was a little smoother than the technicalities of anything else. But I am pretty detailed, so I started learning about when it comes to different sounds, like, okay, no, I don't want this, but I do want this. Can we have this from start to finish? And that project, it took longer than I thought, as far as like once it was time to get it out. The editing on all of that, I was in the room. I didn't literally edit, but I was a part of like, no, okay, so this second here, this time, we're gonna do this. And I didn't know I was gonna be doing that. But I'm just glad that I was able to learn all those things for what is to come in the future. But yeah, Herb was also in Concrete. And that was amazing. Oh, fun fact, I had maybe half of my cast that the day before was not able to do it. So we were running around the day before, finding as many people as we could, and I think it actually turned out better than I expected it to.
Yes, it was a beautiful, beautiful process.
Thank you.
And like, how were you able to like put yourself in that space as like, to be able to run the whole shebang? Like,
yeah, because I was running rehearsals. I mean, literally from costume to this. I don't know. I think what helped me is growing up, when I would read books, this is so weird, but reading books, I would see them in my head as movies. And so from start to finish, for some reason, it kind of looks the same to me. So reading a script, it just feels like natural to just be like, okay, I see this is how it's going to go. But I'm not going to lie, I think I would definitely need an assistant next time, because there were certain things that I didn't know I was going to be in charge of. But like I said, I just learned how detailed I was and how passionate, because I spent maybe 3 weeks looking for a certain candle that floats. And I wouldn't have thought of that as just an actor coming on set. I literally thought about like, okay, how do you greet people? How are you gonna make them feel? How should they come in? Is this being taken care of? And I just had so many hats on. And I think the craziest thing was like doing all those things and then having to act. I was like, this is the thing I really do, so this is really interesting coming off and being like, okay, so what's next? But I don't know, like I said, I think it really did help to shape and mold for what's to come. So learning all those things is great.
Yeah.
So that you don't have to look for it in someone else, or if you are hiring someone else, then you kind of know what it looks like.
So this was like the first time you've ever directed before?
It was the first time I directed for film, but I recently before that creative directed a music video for Kindle.
Oh my God, Kindle, yeah, we
Yeah.
just had that. That's so cool.
I did that.
So I guess for me it's like, what is, after like having these directing experiences, like have you kind of figured out how you want your room to be, like how you want your actors to feel in a space? Like what are some things that you kind of...
For me, when it came to, it was an interesting time first of all, because COVID and getting people together, I knew I didn't want to do that. But as far as how to make them feel, I made sure that really thoroughly explaining like, okay, here's my vision, here's what I see for the character, and going, okay, so certain directors, you'll come in and you'll just do your thing and leave. But for me, I really took the time to really be like, okay, I'm gonna have you do these exercises, I'm gonna watch you, okay, imagine you're this, imagine it's that. Yes, that's it. And I think the difference for me was really encouraging them and letting them know like, no, you're doing great. Or like, this is really what I want. Like, don't do anything else. And I think being very straightforward really helped me to kind of get the point across so everyone knew what I wanted and it didn't have to be any confusion. But in a room, I really want people to feel like, no matter if I leave and I don't know what she said, she made me feel good. Or like I really left feeling like, wow, that was such a great time. Because that's something that sticks with me. Like I don't even remember half the words people say. But as long as I remember like, okay, how did they make me feel? So from the time they came in, I was like, is someone at the door? Please be at the door. Are you getting the food? Are you good? I think I asked Herb a couple times, like, are you fine? You good? Everything okay? Because it's just really important to me that, like, yes, you are here as a talent and I need you, but you're also a human. And I need to make sure that the actor is good, but the person is good. And that is something that I did sometimes, was make sure, like, okay, I love what you're doing as an actor, but are you good on the other side? And I think that was big for me, because I don't want you to come into the space and have life going on, and I just want you to do what you came to do, and then I don't check on you for anything else.
How would you describe your style in a few words?
My style, oh my goodness, that's so interesting. I don't know, it almost feels to me kind of like I'm an onion that's like literally pulling off layers and continuing to fight against society norms and really be myself. So the more that I continue to, like, even in the way that I dress, to the way that I write, to the way that I act, I think it continues to change and evolve the more I accept myself. So I think my style would definitely be, sometimes if it's a chair, it's a chair. Sometimes the chair is not the chair. And I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm saying like it's very out and open to where it's super imaginative. The best I can describe it to, Jordan Peele maybe. But I don't know, it's just very, I do things very different, or I like them kind of straight and rigid, or very like, I don't know. The story is not always long, or there's not too many words, and if there are, then I'm always intentional of what's going on.
What would an audience member expect to see for something you've directed?
Ooh, an audience member would expect to possibly see a mirror. I always think of, with my work, it's kind of a question back. I'm not always like, this is what it is, take it and you leave knowing. Sometimes you're like, wait a minute. Like, was that about me? Or like, what is this saying? I always want the work to literally be something like catches on fire. So if you think of a fire, someone needs to come and let that thing out. And I think of it as like spreading awareness and really being like, hey, here's a problem. Or like, this is something going on. We need to know what is this? And it's not always political. I'm not even that much of a political person, but I think anything that I put out, it's just kind of like, it's gonna say something. It's not just because. It says something about you, about society, about the world. But either way, I always wanted to really make you have a question or a conversation. You need to leave debating something or thinking about something, and whether you're mad at me or not, I don't really care. I just need you to talk. And it needs to start something.
Yes. What do you want your community to take from your art?
My community to take from my art? I don't know, that our stories matter. I think that's the biggest thing, is representation, because the reason that I even started doing this, I think, is attached to representation and realizing that there are actors out here that don't get a chance to tell these stories, and there are stories that just don't get out here. So I think the biggest thing is just knowing, like, oh man, like there really is someone like me, or this is relatable. Or simply, if you don't even relate to the story I told, the fact that I'm doing it and I look like you is like, oh man, I can do it too. So yeah, that's the biggest thing I would think for the community, is knowing like there is no limit. Like I was not going to school for none of this. I just started, and people are like, hey, can you do this? Can you shoot for this? Can you direct for this? I'm like, wait, what? So you can do it too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Any advice for someone who, I guess we kind of answered it right there, but advice for people who are interested in getting into directing, and like where to start?
Ooh. Any advice? I think I would say be truthful and honest with who you are, so that you for sure know what are your intentions going into it and how you want to really go as a director, because everyone's style is different and there is no right or wrong. There's technicalities, but as long as you are bringing yourself and bringing something new to the table, people are going to catch the wave. And I think the biggest thing is really do your research, seriously, because there really are things that I didn't know, and getting down to the last stretch, people would be like, hey, do you have this? Or do you know about this? And I'm like, oh, I did not know about that. So I think the biggest thing I could say last is be humble. Like, always be willing to learn, and anytime anyone comes on a project with me, I let them know, like, hey, I am very humble. If you see something in the script, if you see something that I am not doing that you don't agree with, please let me know, and we can have a conversation. Something can change if it's necessary, but as long as you're humble, I think that will go a long way. Do not act like you know what something means. If you do not, say, I don't know what that word is.
Yes.
I don't know what it is, because that literally takes you. As soon as you start acting like you know everything,
You stop growing.
you stop growing. Then it's just kind of like, oh, you know everything. Then you don't, what do you need me for? So, I don't know, that's the biggest thing I would say.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem, is that people are afraid to ask for help, and they're also afraid to not look like they know everything.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
and I took the pressure off of myself, because I do not act like I know everything, because I know I don't. People will be like, do you know this word? No.
No.
Do you know what this means? I don't. And that's okay, because as soon as you tell me, I'll absorb it. Great, we'll go, but I'm not going to act like I know, because the minute I do, that's when I stop growing. That's when connections stop.
Yeah.
That's when it all stops, so don't do that.
Can you, in like a few sentences, describe what that looks like on you?
Oh, that was good. Woo! What does growth look like on me? I think is being very vulnerable and accepting when you make a mistake, or accepting when it seems like it was a setback, and knowing that you're okay. Breathe. We don't have to go all the way back. It's just take the time here to realize, like, okay, what just happened? Let me look at this, and how can I grow and learn? So I don't know if that's answering it, but I think for me, anytime that I'm growing and there's something I need to work on, I'm always pointing it out. Like, I'm very self-aware, and I'm like, hey, can you tell me what I'm doing wrong? Okay, great, we got these. What's my weaknesses? And I think the interesting thing about it is I'm always asking, like, what is a weakness before a strength? Because all day, you can ask me what a strength is, and that's great, and that's my comfortability. But it's where people are like, where's your weakness? That's where the growth comes. So I think accepting weaknesses and going, okay, we don't really like weaknesses, but I need to know what they are so that I have a chance to grow. Because if you don't talk about them, strengths are comfortability. That's where you're comfortable. So that's what that looks like for me. And I think, like I said, giving yourself grace and knowing like, ooh, okay, maybe I messed up or maybe I don't know, but stay here, don't go back. Stay here, and what are we doing to move forward?
Yeah.
That's really what it is. Thinking ahead.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Dropping the gems.
Yeah.
Dropping the gems.
I was like, Oprah, you get a gem.
No, real
Yeah.
Yeah.
What inspires you? What's inspiring you right now?
What's inspiring me right now, and I think specifically for the direction that I'm going in, is probably not being, how do I answer this? Not being represented by an agency right now is actually inspiring me, because the more that I grow and learn on my own before being represented is giving me ideas that I never thought would come. And I think a lot of them would say, oh, you're great, or like, you're good, we just can't represent you right now. And I said, okay, that's cool. But then I said, well, what am I gonna do? You can't stop. So I think that's where independent work came in and was like, all right, you need to do it on your own, and there's stories that you have or that you have thought about that can be created. So I think definitely what inspires me is knowing that Hollywood and this industry is an interesting place. It's an interesting place to be in, and so knowing that it takes time, that really inspires me to be like, okay, well, I'm not just gonna wait and be represented and whatever, because I'll still be doing this stuff when I am. It's just that I think this is the perfect time to just take over so that they kind of balance each other out. So it's either I'm represented and we got there this way, or my work put me on this way.
Absolutely.
But I'm not gonna wait. Not gonna wait.
Not alone.
I don't have time to wait.
Yeah.
And we won't have to cry.